What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Charles on Ned's World, checking in, just making sure that my levels is right. That's why I'm always looking to the right or the left. I guess it would be the right on y'all's. Anyway, whatever. Hit the thumbs up button. Listen, y'all, go ahead and get you a snack. We're getting ready to watch a show called Fatal Attraction, one of my favorite true crime shows. So go ahead and get you a snack, and then we're gonna go ahead and you can go ahead and pause this and get your snack because I ain't gonna stop while you go get your snack. Just go get your snack and come back. Just pause it. But I'm finna go ahead and play it, and then anyway, let's go ahead and play it. Hit the thumbs up button, y'all. True crime.
You never think that will happen in your home so soon, so fast, being that your relative, your little brother who you grew up with, knowing that you never see him again.
The music on these true crime episodes be so eerie. Like, it's real eerie.
Mr. Martin had 9 entrance wounds to his body. There were 2 to the head and neck area, there were 4 in the midsection, and there were 3 in the lower extremities.
When you shoot someone that many times, this isn't a robbery gone bad. He was targeted.
The sad part is, even though the law acquitted him, in the streets, they don't want to hear any of that.
He would die over there, man. If they had beef, it was his beef.
And I said, "Aren't you scared?" And he just said, "I'm not scared of nothing."
You kind of put 2 and 2 together. That was some type of payback.
May 31st, 2018.
My bad. This ain't Fatal Attraction. This is Payback. I never heard this one. Let's go ahead and get into this one, y'all. Have y'all ever heard of Payback? Is this a new show? I never heard of this one.
Just before dawn, police in Waterloo, Iowa, receive a call about an injured man near the 1200 block of Washington Street.
So the initial call came in that there was a black male in a pool of blood in the alley. One of the neighbors in the alley had called it in.
Responding officers quickly determined that the victim has already succumbed to his injuries. They search for evidence to explain his death.
Of particular interest here was the number of bullets, of shell casings. There were, I believe, 5 shell casings found on scene, 3 fired bullets.
They couldn't find any wallet, ID, so initially they had no idea who this black male in the alley that had been killed was. They did notice some tattoos on his arms, and one of our officers was good enough to run through our database the tattoos that he saw, and that tattoo ultimately identified him as Scandalous Martin.
Scandalous Chavez Martin was born on January 5, 1996, in Greenwood, Mississippi, to parents Diane Martin and little John Archer Chavez. Scandalous immediately won over his older half-brother, DeAndre.
I remember when he came home in his car seat. He was a smiling baby. He was quiet, like always sitting in his car seat smiling. He was a smiling person. I'm the oldest, and then second, the middle child is Cardarius, and the youngest was Shavandis.
DeAndre, he always been like the smart one, the focused one. Then you got me, I always was the class clown. Then you got Shavandis, he had his own type of personality. Funny, caring, had the biggest heart.
A lot of times, it was just us, kind of us against the world, you know. My mom raised us alone. Dad wasn't there. We lived with...
Is the middle brother, is he special, or is he just smiling a lot? Because people used to say that about me when I was smiling. They thought I was special. Let's hit the thumbs up button. Let's continue on.
Family members, being around cousins.
We grew up since we was kids. Like, when we stayed together at my mom's house, it used to be everybody. When we lived in Mississippi, it used to be everybody.
It was fun, rough moments, tough moments, sad moments. But I think that's what made us strong at the end of the day.
In the early 2000s, the extended family decided to move from Mississippi to Waterloo, Iowa.
My parents decided that they wanted something better in Mississippi. There's no money down there. It's like my dad got tired of working for bare minimal and he wanted more, so we moved up here.
The move from a production.
What made them want to move to a small town in Iowa? Was it a job there or something? Maybe they're going to explain it more. That's an odd place for a black family to move.
Predominantly black city.
I understand why they got the hell out of Mississippi, though. Hell, you get the hell out of Mississippi.
With only 15,000 residents to a predominantly white city of 68,000 came with some culture shock. Waterloo didn't offer everything the family had hoped for.
Waterloo is on the list for the worst cities for black Americans based on household income, based on home ownership versus renting, based on opportunities, whether it be in jobs or specifically related.
Exactly. Iowa is a white state. Why'd they move there thinking they was going to have a better opportunity there? That was an odd. Well, they must have been too smart if they lived in Mississippi and then they moved from there to Iowa. I'm sorry. That's crazy, though. Iowa? Why'd they think to go to Iowa? I would think Atlanta, Texas, even like somewhere maybe like Seattle or something, but Iowa?
And I'm telling you, if you are familiar with this area and you drive through the neighborhoods of Waterloo, you can feel that.
Gunplay was, in our neighborhood, is very normal. Hearing shots all the time, police sirens and things like that.
We wasn't like allowed to like go around the block and because my mom's concerned about safety and stuff, so really tough on us.
Thankfully, the Waterloo community had some strong youth outreach programs.
I had an opportunity to get involved with a soccer program that was beginning in one of the lowest economic schools, elementary schools in Waterloo. And at that, I met Cardarius, and I became his big brother with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Shavandis ended up being on our soccer team the next year.
For the two younger brothers, sports provided an escape and hope for the future.
When I started picking up basketball, after I started picking up basketball, he was actually good. Me and Shavandis' conversation was, hey, bro, what you doing? You need to sit there and think about what you're doing. You're really good at basketball, man. Take your talent seriously. Go to school. Like, we need to do something for mom, get her out of here. We need to continue with the sports, play basketball, whatever we can do to get us out of Iowa.
In high school, Cardarius defined himself as an athlete, but Shavandis gravitated toward other interests.
Shavandis, who was very athletic, but also just didn't have that drive. So a lot of times he would be at a game and you just want more from him. He just didn't want to try. And it was kind of that same thing with school. It was really hard to get him motivated. He just didn't have that motivation that the other two boys had. Maybe he saw that Dre was already the man of the house and Cardarius was kind of the athlete, and he said, what is it for me?
As a teenager, Shavandis started making friends on the streets and getting into trouble for the first time.
I think maybe hearing the gunshots in the neighborhood we lived in, sometimes you can just meet a friend or something and then the adrenaline you're thinking and it becomes that. So I think he was just struggling with wanting to be cool and be tough.
Shavandis was pretty smart. I mean, he wasn't stupid. He wasn't the person that just did whatever someone told him to. He was his own person.
He was definitely a little, hard-headed and whatever. When he jumped off the porch, he jumped. It wasn't no coming back from it.
In June 2016, Shavandis was arrested for possession of marijuana with intent to deliver.
Shavandis was probably already on the police radar when he got caught with narcotics and a scale and all of that, and then turned back around a month later, and then now is charged with being in the drive-by shooting.
I think it leads from the teenage years, from like fighting and having beef, and then it kind of like level up to go from fighting with hands to with guns.
Shavandis' attempts to fit in on the streets have dire consequences. When someone loses their life, and Shavandis is held responsible.
There were a couple of people shot, one of them being Octavius Brown, who ended up dying.
Shavandis got arrested for murder. I don't know to this day if he was one with a gun that struck the guy.
Chavandez spent a year and a half in police custody. In early 2018, he went on trial for murder. A jury found him not guilty.
Ultimately, they didn't feel we had enough evidence to put a gun in Chavandez Martin's hands.
I know when he got out, the first thing he did was he actually said he was done with the streets. He just wanted to work and stay out of trouble.
He was back out. He was working at Tyson Chicken, and he was trying to pretty much reboot and change his life to try to get a low profile and just kind of live life on a better way and a straight and narrow path.
Instead of being in the mode he was before he went in, kind of being on guard when he got out, he's walking around like a changed man. And I think it might have just backfired, letting your guard down,
In the early morning hours on May 31st, 2018, 4 months after he was acquitted of murder and had turned his life around, Chavandez Martin has been murdered.
When I heard the name, it kind of hit close because I had arrested Chavandez Martin for murder roughly 2 years before this incident. During that previous investigation, we got to know each other quite well. My first thought when I learned it was Chavandez in the alley was, this isn't going to be easy. Unfortunately, he had made a lot of people angry, and we knew there was a lot of people that were after him. So it kind of created a wide pool of who might have done this. Made a little.
So that's another thing about them little small town, little communities like that. The local thugs and the gang bangers that live in those particular neighborhoods, they have to actually be extra hard to kind of put their name out there. So they even more ruthless than, say, some gang banger in South Central where I live at, or in New York. You know what I'm saying? Hit the thumbs up button, guys.
More difficult that I learned, his pockets have been gone through and possibly a phone taken. So initially we thought, was this possibly a robbery? So that opens up a whole bigger pool of potential people.
Investigators canvassed the neighborhood, searching for anyone who saw or heard the shooting.
A number of the witnesses described what they believed earlier in the morning, around 3:30 in the morning. They believed that there had been a party going on, and they thought they heard fireworks.
Others recognized the sounds as gunshots, but did not call police.
They don't want to call it in and be part of the crime because then their name gets out that they called it in. So we have a lot of people that won't call it in so they don't have to talk to the police.
Moving forward, homicide investigators have one thing to focus on. Who killed Chavandez Martin?
Leaving the scene, we didn't have a lot to work with initially. In terms of the actual players, at that moment, we did not know.
So wait a minute. So he got deleted during a party, and so everybody just left his body there and just went home? That's crazy. Is that what happened? If that's what happened, that's crazy.
In Waterloo, Iowa, police are investigating the shooting of 22-year-old Chavandez Martin. The victim and his family are well known in the community.
It was decided right away, let's go talk to Mom. We went to Diane's house, and I ultimately made the declaration that Chavandez had been murdered. She was obviously distraught and was having a tough time with answering questions, so she wanted her son DeAndre there.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in the car. It was me, my fiance, and my daughter. I get a call, and my mom said the police came to our door saying they think Chavandez is dead. I think somebody killed him. And then, honestly, I threw my phone. I hung it up, and I said it killed my brother.
Chavandez's older brother, Cardarius, is away at college when he receives the news via text message from a family friend.
So I called my brother, DeAndre. He answered and told me it was true. And my emotions felt like I couldn't breathe, felt like my heart just jumped out of my chest. You never think that would happen in your home so soon, so fast, being that your relative, your little brother who you grew up with, knowing that you would never see him again.
I went to pick my mom up, and we went to where he was killed at. We got to see him just laying there lifeless, like an animal that's been ran over by a car. You can imagine how that can make me feel.
While the family and investigators are still at the scene, they receive information from a bystander who says she knew Chavandez.
We did talk to an ex-girlfriend right away, and the reason we did is because she arrived on the crime scene not knowing it was Chavandez, but eventually finding out, and made comments to an officer that she had just been with him that morning. We learned that at approximately 12:30, Chavandez did come by her house, and they talked for about an hour. After that, he called a friend, got picked up, and that was the last time she saw him. She had no real description of what kind of vehicle it was, just that it was a 4-door vehicle, and Chavandez had gotten out of the back driver's seat. She didn't know who was driving and who else was in the vehicle. So now we had a timeline of that 1:30 a.m. where he left his ex-girlfriend's house to the 3:30 where the incident happened. So now we've narrowed that time of 2 hours that we need to figure out what happened in that time.
Investigators approach local businesses to see if anyone has surveillance footage of the area where Chavandez was found.
We did find some cameras, but a lot of times what I run across is a lot of people use dummy cameras. It's just a scare tactic. They're not actually hooked up for recording. So we didn't have anything of the immediate area that Chavandez was located at.
Later, the autopsy shows that more shots were fired than police had previously assumed.
Mr. Martin had 9 entrance wounds to his body. There were 2 to the head and neck area. There were 4 in the midsection, and there were 3 in the lower extremities.
There were 9mm bullets used, as well as 357 or 38 special. 38 special and 357 are a common revolver caliber, so we felt we were dealing with a revolver that wouldn't have left shell casings. So we believe there's 2 shooters because of the 2 guns.
The brutality of the murder also prompts investigators to theorize about motive.
This is a very personal incident. When you shoot someone that many times, this isn't a robbery gone bad. We're leaning more towards this is personal. He was targeted.
Police consider the recent acquittal of Chavandez Martin on murder charges as a potential motive for his murder.
Obviously, Octavius Brown's friends and family were not happy that he was acquitted on the shooting. His group had also created a lot of enemies, so there were always groups after, not necessarily him, but the people he hung out with.
And you kind of put 2 and 2 together. Everybody had common sense. That was some type of payback.
That's why the show called.
Investigating the murder of 22-year-old Chavandez Martin, police in Waterloo, Iowa, examine allegations that Chavandez was involved in another murder on July 17, 2016.
We had a drive-by shooting on Logan Avenue in Waterloo. We had a driver that was in his 30s, and then we had 3 other juveniles in the car doing the shootings. Through our investigation, we learned that multiple people fired shots at the house, eventually striking 2 and killing a 3rd.
A witness identified Chavandez as one of the 3 shooters. The murder victim was 21-year-old Octavius Brown.
Everything we learned, Octavius Brown was kind of just a wrong place, wrong time, innocent victim in this.
Octavius wasn't even part of anything to do with the streets. He was a guy that was just happened to be around. He had nothing to do with it. Nobody ever known him to do anything in the streets, guys. He just was a person that knew street guys.
Friends and family members of Chavandez Martin believe Chavandez was murdered because of his association with the death of Octavius Brown and his loyalty to the friends allegedly involved in that drive-by shooting.
We learned that Shavondas was very loyal to his friends, would do anything for them.
He loved his friend. He would die over them, man. It's nothing to really go. You could say to him about them. If they had beef, it was his beef. He was the one that was going to step in for them.
And friends staying loyal and not snitching and all of these different codes that we have as young black men is the reason why Shavondas went down the hole that he went down.
Shavondas was acquitted of murder charges on February 9th, 2018. But the streets may not let go so easily.
The sad part is, even though the law acquitted him, in the streets, they don't want to hear any of that. If you're an alleged shooter of someone's family, we all know it's going to be payback. So he tried to lay low. He tried to work. He tried to keep his head down, stay low, don't go to any clubs like that. But in the back of his mind, I'm pretty sure he knew it was always somebody looking for him, always somebody that was still angry that he made it out.
My best hope for him when he got out was him and my mom just moved. I know Cardarius was living in Minnesota at the time, and then a lot of our families in Mississippi. I was praying that they just moved away. You had to, like, God gave you a second chance. Like, a lot of people, especially young black men, don't get acquitted of murder. So I was like, y'all, you two should just move, but neither one of them wanted to move.
When that's all you know and that's all you ever been around, you haven't traveled much, you don't know what else to do, all your family is there. A lot of times people just feel like they'll just stick around and they'll be okay. They just hope for the best, even though they know they have to look over their shoulders. They just feel more comfortable being in a place that they've always known.
After months of trying to walk the straight and narrow, Shavondas seems to lose himself once again to the streets.
Once he got back around or back in his comfortable environment, he went back to his old ways.
He had gotten out of prison, and we were hanging out, and I was just asking what he wanted for his life. It was the last time we hung out, actually. And I just remember him looking at me, and he didn't know. And it was silence. And I'll never forget that silence. And I just said, "Aren't you scared?" And he just said, "I'm not scared of nothing."
I hate that mentality. I hate I'm not scared of nothing. In our reality, you don't have to be afraid for something bad to happen to you. So you being tough sometimes is just escalating a situation for something bad to happen to you.
One day after Shavondas Martin was murdered, investigators are still trying to identify individuals with the motive and the opportunity to kill him.
June 1st, we really kind of hit a brick wall. We didn't have any leads on suspects, so we were just kind of trying to figure out what to do next. It was suggested maybe go talk to Mom again, see if there had been any information she had gathered from friends or family that could help us. It happened to be probably the biggest break that we got in the case.
On June 1st, 2018, detectives in Waterloo, Iowa, pay another visit to the mother of murder victim Shavondas Martin.
Diane wasn't home, but her son Cardarius was. While we were speaking to him, a car with 4 females pulled up, and the driver, later identified as Shavonda's cousin, Tatanisha Hunt, got out of the seat and claimed that she had just been at the bus station and Denasia Martin was trying to leave town.
Denasia is like a third, second cousin to me. She was not my cup of tea at all. She was more so into the streets a lot.
Waterloo being a very tight-knit town, I'm very aware of who Denasia was. So I knew who they were talking about, but I didn't know where she fit into this case.
According to Tatanisha, friends saw Denasia sitting at the...
These names is killing me. I have no clue who is who, and the names are so just unusual that I don't know who is who. Denasia, Shantavius, these are some black people. They're definitely black people. They're my people. Hit the thumbs up button, guys. Let's go ahead and continue on.
Bus stop with a man they believed was Raymond Burden Jr. They know Burden as the stepbrother of Octavius Brown, the man Shavondas was accused of murdering.
There had been a lot of hate between Raymond and Shavondas. Shavondas had gotten off of murdering Raymond's brother, Octavius. There was always that hostility towards them. So when we get that name, the timeline starts to make sense.
Tantanisha is suspicious of Denasia and Raymond being together and at the bus stop so soon after the murder. So she goes to confront them.
I speed down there. Me and all my friends, we all speed down there. We like 2 cars deep. They see me pull up and they hurry up and drove off. I chased them down. I was following them. Like they was speeding, I was speeding. I chased them all the way out to like Cedar Falls.
However, at a certain point, she saw a police cruiser and slowed down. After that, she lost sight of the vehicle.
I went back to my auntie house. We was out there, the detective come, and I tell them, I'm angry. Like, they was just trying to get to the bus station, get away on the bus.
But at that point, we had no idea what part Denasia played in this, or why she was fleeing town, or why Tantanisha was even looking for her.
According to Tantanisha, a family friend named Muff says he saw Denasia and Shavondas together on the day of the murder.
We learned that Denasia had picked up Shavondas that morning of May 31st and was likely the last person now to see him alive.
Muff was in the car with Denasia when she picked up Shavondas, just hours before he was found dead.
Muff, I actually knew who that was just from previous interactions. I knew where he lived. He was willing to let us in and talk. We learned that, in fact, he was in the car with Denasia when they picked Shavondas up that morning. He put it roughly around 2 o'clock. We asked what happened after they picked Shavondas up. So he said that at the time, he asked Denasia to drop him off at a friend's house near a Walgreens just up the road from where they had picked him up. So then Denasia's alone with Shavondas in her car, being the last person with him. We need to find Denasia.
Yeah, where Denasia is at. You gotta find
Detectives go to the Waterloo bus station and request surveillance footage from earlier that day.
Denasia Martin was clearly in a disguise of some sort. Her hair was different. I believe she had sunglasses on. She was attempting to get a bus ticket, I believe to Chicago, but her bag was too big.
Through the investigation, we also learned that Denasia had an apartment in the alley right next to where Shavondas was found. We started doing backgrounds on her, figuring out who she hung out with.
Police records prove that Denasia has a long history with Raymond Burton Jr., the stepbrother of Octavius Brown, who Shavondas was acquitted of murdering.
Raymond and Denasia had an on-again, off-again relationship. It was kind of well known through the police department. They had been arrested several times together. They had caused quite the havoc at juvenile detention facilities.
Now, investigators have 2 prime suspects. And they're not the only ones looking for Raymond and Denasia.
They never went back to the bus station because I was watching. I figured they probably drove out of town because what somebody had told me, they said she was going to Mississippi.
While trying to track down Denasia and Raymond, detectives receive a surprising call.
It did hit kind of stale for about a day, and then we received a phone call from Denasia. She said she was on a bus in, I think, Michigan at the time, but she...
That thumbs up button, this is getting good, y'all. This is getting really good. Where's Denasia ass? Now, where Raymond ass at?
She was on her way to see her dad in Norfolk. At that time, Denasia denied being involved in Shavondas' death, but admitted that she had picked up Shavondas from the apartment complex and was the last person to see him alive. She said she dropped him off in a neighborhood and then went to her boyfriend's house. At the time, I wasn't going to be able to find her boyfriend because he had multiple warrants and didn't want to be found by us. So it left.
these sisters and they lust for thugs and gangbangers and gangsters. Jesus Christ.
Left an open alibi there as far as we couldn't prove that, we couldn't disprove it. But the story just didn't seem right to me.
Investigators urged Denasia to come to the police station and tell them everything she knows. But Denasia says she's afraid.
She knew her cousin had died. She also had been receiving some threats as far as being the last person to see her cousin alive. She knew people were looking for her. She was adamant that there was no way she was coming back to her.
Just days after the murder of Shavandez Martin, police in Waterloo, Iowa have received a call from the victim's cousin, Denasia Martin, that she is willing to cooperate with the investigation, but only from a safe distance.
She was in fear. Everyone was accusing her of killing her cousin, and she just did not feel safe. So it was decided that me and another detective were going to go to Virginia and talk to her in person. When we met at her aunt's house, she gave a better detailed statement about what had happened.
There wasn't a great deal of consistency initially with Miss Martin, but we were able to piece together that she had been with a group of individuals on the 30th, including Raymond Burden. They had been driving around.
She talked about their timeline, gave us places that they stopped. All these things that she was telling us was just information that we needed to follow up on. It was potential video, it was potential records, purchases at gas stations.
Law enforcement was able to go back, track that story, and confirm much of what she had told law enforcement. We obtained video footage from a number of locations in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
What y'all think? She set him up. She set his ass up. Her own cousin. She set him up. That's what I believe. Let's just see what happens. Hit the thumbs up, guys.
Denasia tells police that toward the end of the night, she and her friend Muff went to pick up Shavandez from his girlfriend's house. Later, she says, they were attacked.
They pulled up to an intersection. Multiple people got out of a car in front of them and pulled Shavandez out of the car at gunpoint. She was able to identify two of the people that were in that car, Raymond Burden and another male. She stated that they ultimately pulled him into a car, drove off, and that was the last time she ever saw her cousin.
After Denasia finishes telling her side of the story, police notice one contradiction. She said Muff was in the car with her when Shavandez was abducted. But that's not the story Muff told police. Investigators decide to...
He stated that he was afraid of the people that did this, and that's why he never wanted to tell us what happened. But he finally broke down and agreed to tell us what happened.
It was just her and him in a car. They went and picked up Shavandez. We learned from him that Denasia starts acting very bizarre at that point. She's driving all over the place, slamming on the brakes, says she has to use the restroom, which was odd to him because there had been a gas station nearby. They then go up to Denasia's residence on the same alley where Mr. Martin was found.
She left the two of them in her car. During the statement, Muff says Shavandez is very paranoid, doesn't like it.
She set him up.
Even makes the comment that, I don't like being out here, I don't have a gun, I have no protection.
She set him up.
Eventually, Muff says he saw a gun come through the window next to Shavandez's head.
He stated,
Raymond shot. She set him up for Raymond. Oh wow. That
male with a gun told Shavandez, I got you. At that point, when the gunman started talking, Muff said he knew who it was. He knew it was Raymond Burton.
Raymond Burden ordered Chavandez to get out of the car and walk into the alley behind Denaja's apartment building.
Muff stated that as they're walking back to the alley, another person came from behind the apartment building, joined them, and that's the last time he saw Chavandez.
One of the things that sticks out to me, Mr. Martin knew he was going to be murdered. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you're accused of been doing. Nobody should have to be put in a position where they are walking to their execution.
Muff tells police he fled the scene before the shooting began.
He was afraid, so he pulled away in the vehicle, but as he was pulling away, he did hear the gunshots.
To build a solid murder case against Raymond Burden Jr., authorities know they'll need more than Muff's testimony. They keep searching for evidence that connects the alleged shooter to the victim.
At the time, I knew what Raymond's Facebook profile was. My first thing was see if there was any communication between them. So on Chavandez's Facebook results, we ended up finding a pretty significant conversation.
Chavandez has social media, so people can still contact you. They can still say things that's gonna rile you up and make you feel away. So when he started getting contacted from Raymond, his first instinct was to lash back out, to say whatever he got to say, because he's not gonna let anybody chump him off or punk him out. And that's where the problem pretty much started to escalate from there.
In that conversation, there is some back and forth between Raymond and Chavandez. At one point, Chavandez insults Octavius Brown, and Raymond takes offense to that and escalates the conversation, threatening Chavandez. Chavandez tells him that if he doesn't be careful, he's going to end up in a grave next to his brother, to which Raymond responds, "I bet you see him before I do."
Without a doubt, a threat that was made. And this is just in the hours just prior to the shooting death of Chavandez Martin.
At that point, Raymond was actually wanted on a separate crime. We felt confident if we can try to get him in jail, maybe we can build a case and ultimately charge him with.
In the fall of 2018, authorities are searching for Raymond Burden Jr., the main suspect in the shooting death of Chavandez Martin.
Our detectives were able to actually locate him in Texas, get him arrested, and brought back to Waterloo.
Raymond Burden was placed under arrest for an unrelated intimidation with a dangerous weapon prior to his arrest for the murder of Chavandez Martin.
Soon after, authorities also arrest his accomplice, Denaja Martin, who authorities believe lured her own cousin to his death.
There was no denying that she knew that this was payback. This was a setup.
We sent the U.S. Marshals after her in Norfolk, Virginia, where she was ultimately arrested. We had her transported back to Black Hawk eventually, where she agreed to cooperate with the case.
Denaja Martin pled to conspiracy to commit a forcible felony and was sentenced to prison for an indeterminate sentence not to exceed 10 years.
In April 2021, Raymond Burden Jr. went on trial for murder.
We were sitting in the same room as his family, so emotions is flaring. Both families in the same room, so a lot of tension.
I was real angry. I kept walking out the room. Like, I couldn't hear it all. It was just making me so mad.
Raymond ultimately didn't take the stand. He refused to talk to us.
Raymond was very cool and calm throughout the trial, up until the time of the verdict.
On May 4th, a jury decides his fate.
Ultimately, they found Raymond Burton guilty of murder in the first degree. And in Iowa, any murder in the first verdict is a mandatory life in prison without the chance of parole.
It was a relief, but after they said guilty, I told my family, we all got up and hurried up and left, because let's not give this chance to boil.
Remind you, this is a small city, small neighborhood where nobody really gets out of it anyway. So after the verdict, after all of this, they're still going to see each other. And they're going to see each other every day at grocery stores, picking up their kids from school, just anywhere. And this is something they're going to have to live with.
The mysterious second shooter has never been identified or brought to justice. And, tragically, Chavandez's mother did not live to see Raymond Burton Jr. convicted.
It's months apart, still grieving from our brother. We had to grieve again from our mother.
In September 2018, Diane Martin died in her own home, the apparent victim of a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting.
I seen my mom laying on the floor right there in the kitchen with blood everywhere. So
Jesus Christ.
I looked to see if she was okay. I seen her eyes red. And I seen blood like on the stove everywhere from her back of her head. And I seen it and I ran out the house, always to the end of the church by my house. I sat there in front of the door and cried. And then go back to the house. Ever since.
Her murder is still under investigation. We have not made an arrest in it. We don't believe at this time she was the intended target. We believe she was an innocent victim in gunplay.
My auntie was an innocent lady, and she didn't deserve to die at all with no bullet. But, you know, if justice don't come, God got him at the end. Your karma gonna come around.
In cases like this, even though it's been years and years already passed down, there's also beefs that get passed down as well. So it's probably still gunplay and other beefs that stem from that's still going on to this day. And there's probably some people that's involved in this beef that doesn't even realize where it really stemmed from. My message to all unks, all big homies, all fathers, just try to lead by example.
If you care about yourself enough, you'll know how valuable you is. See, me being spiritual and learning how valuable I am, I knew that with me being gone, that my family, my kids and wife, fiance would fall apart and they wouldn't be safe. So I knew how valuable I was. I knew that I was valuable to my family and my friends and to the world more being alive than in jail. That's what kept me straight-headed.
Life, I feel like you should spend the rest of yours behind bars.
Damn, man. The video, sorry about the video. This is some bootleg shit. So, but I've never heard of this show, Payback. That's crazy. Damn, the mama got. They should have got up out of Iowa when he got acquitted for the first. They should have been. Let me tell you something, man. They should have been trying to get up out of there when he got out of there. They should have been in a moving van. They should have kept their mouth shut. You got to know how to move, man. They should have kept their mouth shut. And the mama, see something, you got to have a, man, let me tell you something. You got to be on point. They should have, when he was coming up for the trial after being in jail for a year, and he got a not guilty verdict, that mom should have been prepared to lead Iowa that day. You understand what I'm saying? He lived 4 months after he was, you know, deleted. That's 4 months they could have got up out of here. You know what I'm saying? They should have just moved Iowa. Like, it's not like they was leaving something that was so. They should have moved to Atlanta or something, somewhere, you know? Yeah, that's what they should have did. The mama, because the mama probably would have still been living. Because that was for Raymond going down for killing her other son. They hit the mama. You know what I'm saying? They shot the house up. That's crazy. Damn. Yeah. You know. Cause you gotta think, man, most black gangs and gangsters, man, they not, once you move, you can move to the next town over and they ain't gonna never get, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't move around like that. Now the mafia, if you mess with those fools, you can move to the ends of the earth. They'll find, the mafia will find you, and they got people everywhere. That's one thing about the mafia. Dudes be trying to run, oh, I just move, you know, dude be in New York and they get in trouble with the mafia. And it's, I just moved to Atlanta. I moved to you know, Seattle, where they'll never find me. They go to open the door for the Amazon package and get and they get their wig split. The mafia ends up the mafia will find you, baby. But little black gangs and stuff in the hood, you just, you know, you in Mississippi, you in Iowa, just move to Atlanta. Them niggas ain't gonna never find you. You just can't come back home. But it's Iowa. You ain't missing shit. So anyway, what do y'all think about this video, man? Sorry about the bootleg version of it, but hey. Anyway, leave your comments. Give me that thumbs up button. Appreciate it, guys.